What if I told you that the real battle didn't end on the battlefield? That long after the swords stopped clashing, after the crowd cheered and the emperor smiled, there were men, forgotten, broken and bleeding inside, who kept fighting silent wars no one ever saw. This isn't a story about Roman glory. It's about what came after. The pain, the scars, the invisible wounds. This is the untold side of Roman warfare. The soldiers who survived the war, but never truly came back home. Before we dive in, subscribe if you believe history isn't just about emperors and conquests, but about the forgotten men who made all of it possible. Because their stories deserve to be remembered. The battlefield was chaos, screams, steel tearing through flesh, the gladius slicing across skin like paper, blood painting the sand red. They called it Roman glory. But for the men inside that storm, it felt more like hell. And the ones who died, maybe they were the lucky ones, because the real horror began for those who survived. Not heroes with medals, but broken bodies, twisted limbs, and minds scarred beyond recognition. Roman warfare wasn't distant or clean. It was face-to-face, up close, personal. The pila, the Roman javelin, didn't just pierce, it shattered. Curved darts bent inside your body, impossible to pull out. Barbarian axes didn't cut clean, they ripped. Germanic swords left open, ragged wounds. A single strike could tear off an arm or crush your skull. And those who didn't die right there on the ground, they were dragged off, bleeding, groaning, if they were lucky. Others were left behind in dirt, excrement, and the blood of friends, waiting for someone to care. Many died later, not from weapons, but from infection. There were no clean tools, no sterilized bandages, only vinegar, wine, and prayers. Every Roman military camp had a valetudinarium, a hospital, if you can call it that. Here, the medici worked not to heal, but to patch you up just enough to send you back into battle. Instruments made of bronze, hooks, saws, tongs, anesthesia, just wine and a bit of opium. The rest, pure agony. If your leg was rotting, they cut it off. If your wound wouldn't close, they cauterized it with fire. Screams filled the camp like war cries. But this wasn't glory, it was survival. And sometimes, even that wasn't guaranteed. But the most painful wounds, they couldn't be seen. Some men returned with no cuts, no bruises, but something inside them was broken. They couldn't sleep. They snapped with rage. They avoided family. They feared everything and trusted no one. Today, we'd call it PTSD. Back then, they called it weakness. To feel pain was suspicious. To suffer in silence, that was the Roman way. Tacitus wrote about veterans who refused to talk, who lived in shadows, who disappeared from public life, alive, but already dead inside. Rome promised rewards, land, pensions, honor. If you survived 25 years of service, you'd get the missio honesta, a proud discharge, land, money, even Roman citizenship. But most of the wounded didn't make it that far. They were discharged early under the missio causaria, medical reasons, symbolic, but useless. No land, no pension, no help, just a broken body and a long road home. Others weren't even that lucky. If you were accused of cowardice or disobedience, you got the missio ignominiosa, a discharge in disgrace, your name erased, your honor destroyed, your life over. Some veterans tried to rebuild. They became camp scribes, trainers for new recruits, or guards in low-risk areas. Others started small shops, worked as market assistants, clung to any role that gave them purpose. But many fell into darkness. Some became mercenaries. Some sold their pain in the arena as gladiators, fighting again, not for Rome, but for a few coins and a chance to die with dignity. And others just vanished. You could find them in the alleys of Rome, begging with missing limbs, empty eyes, and no one to even remember their name. Rome built roads that lasted millennia, monuments that still tower over our cities, armies that conquered continents. But it failed at one thing, taking care of the men who made all of that possible. The Auraria Militari, Rome's military pension fund, was created to fix this. But emperors came and went, funds were stolen, and the first to be abandoned were always the wounded. History remembers the victors, but it forgets the men who bled beneath their banners. These soldiers didn't just fight for Rome, they were Rome. And yet, when their bodies broke, Rome looked the other way. They weren't marble statues. They were men, with pain, with stories, with families they never saw again. So if their story moved you, subscribe to our channel, comment below. Do you think Rome owed them more? Let's give voice to those history left behind, because surviving the war was only the beginning of another one.